a lot of veterans who have been out of service for a long time just assume that, well, they've neglected perhaps filing a claim for a long time. They never got around to it. They never did it. They didn't think they could. And now a lot of time has lapsed since they left service, and they don't think they can.
Mhm.
The good news is that when it comes to VA disability compensation benefits, legally speaking, there is no statute of limitations for filing an original VA disability claim. That means there's no time limit. Some veterans file the day after they get out of service. Some don't file until they're in their 70s or 80s, and we see both regularly here at CCK. These rules come from governing statute and regulations, which I won't get into, but the basis is there clearly in law for the fact that veterans can file an original disability claim for service connection benefits at any time. And so the mere fact that you may have waited for months, years, decades to file a claim should not discourage you. There is still time to file a claim if you think you have a claim that has merit.
Yeah. And I think a very common misconception is that it will be harder to prove your claim, which so long as you have the evidence that you need to show, we'll say, service connection, it doesn't matter how old the evidence is. So you need to have a current disability. You need to have evidence of an in-service injury, event or illness, and you need to have a nexus which connects the two. So long as you have that, it really doesn't matter that the evidence came from 40 years ago, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. It's just as, it holds just as much weight as somebody who files right after service. So another thing I wanted to note too is that you don't even have to be diagnosed during service. You can receive your diagnosis later, so long as we can still show that there is a current diagnosis, an in-service event, injury, or illness, and then nexus. So if you don't have a diagnosis during service, it's not something to sweat about, so long as we can show something in service led to it, to that later diagnosis that you now have.
And as we see all the time, the law continuously evolves and frankly expands as VA benefits and the system of VA benefits evolves over time. Many people in this area have heard about the PACT Act. I'm sure a lot of our veteran listeners and clients know about the PACT Act, but that's a prime example of an expansion of VA benefits that only 10 years, less than that even, didn't exist. And so, veterans who are in their 70s and their 80s perhaps, who have never filed a claim, though they may have wanted to for a long time, maybe the law back then didn't support their claim actually, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now through the expansion of VA benefits and new presumptions that have been granted based on both location of service and types of condition and types of exposures, those benefits are now there within grasp for people who have never filed before. So veterans should not allow the fact that they did not file immediately after getting out of service dissuade them from wanting to file or being able to file now. Remember, there's no statute of limitations, as we said, and they can file at any point.
And then there's the practical reality that is, as people age, conditions tend to get worse over time. This is particularly true with the conditions that are progressive. So we'll see that with an orthopedic condition, hearing loss, or maybe a certain mental health condition. These conditions tend to get more symptoms and more severe symptoms as time goes on. The reason why that's important is because how severe your condition is directly ties into what your rating would be. So maybe a condition that you didn't see as severe when you first got out of service, maybe a mental health condition that was resulting in a little bit of anxiety or irritability is now kind of completely taking over your life. Maybe you didn't think it was worth it at the time to file, but now it really is something that you think you should do. It's another reason why, as your conditions get worse, it's important to look into filing.
Mm-hmm.
It's important that you're receiving the compensation that's due to you. And you might be getting higher benefits than you would have now than if you had applied previously.
Yep, absolutely. So the takeaway for older veterans is don't assume it's too late, right? Mm-hmm. It's not. And so oftentimes, as we've just laid out, not only is there no deadline, but it can sometimes advantage the veteran to file a claim now as compared to years ago, when perhaps the law at that point didn't support their claim, but it does now. Evidence can be built up over time, and new evidence can always be developed. So again, just because an older veteran didn't file years ago doesn't mean that they shouldn't examine whether they should file now, because oftentimes they can, and filing can often lead to a grant of benefits for them.